All right, so thank you to everybody for joining us. This is our first CleanTech North webinar due to COVID-19. This is the first time we've been using this technology, so please bear with us if there are any technological hiccups. We will try and work our way through those as we go. Just so you know, we will be recording this webinar, and the goal is to post it subsequently, as we know a number of people couldn't make this time of day or just had a conflict. So we are recording, and that has already progressed. We do have a packed agenda today, so I will be as brief as I possibly can. First off, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Export Development Canada, the City of Toronto, Flow Ventures, Center for Social Innovation, RBC, and Goodman's. They've all been great partners of ours for the last couple of years, so thank you very much, and thank you for sticking with us during this very interesting time. Second, I'll be emceeing the event overall. I will be posting a few polls throughout the event, so some questions that we have, those hopefully will not interfere with the video. If they do, please let us know, and we will stop using those. Third, in housekeeping, please use the Q&A feature if you have questions for the panelists. Those questions I will try and track on my second screen here to try and feed to our wonderful and intrepid host for the panel, Lynn Cote. And with that, I think I'm going to go right into the content of the webinar and pass it over to the great Paul Connor, who has actually been working tirelessly through the last couple of months to track all of these programs for a number of our different partners, including the City of Toronto, and has now become an expert in many of the programs that have been made available as support during these very interesting times. So with that, Paul, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Brian. You'll see on your screen now an overview of the agenda, but we'll just get right through it, thus making it superfluous. Before I actually give the overview of the 8 government programs, thankfully we actually have people here who can give us much more detail on some of them, so I shall be brief. I will move the slide to here, and then I'll move back to Yvette if that's okay.
Perfect.
All right. Now the first one on the left is the Canada Emergency Response Benefit. This is the last ditch because this is for individuals, not for companies. If a company has no other way to proceed but wants make sure their workers are taken care of, this program is a $2,000 a month program for up to 16 weeks. The key fact here is you can't make more than $1,000 a month, and the key date here is that the program expires 3rd of October, so you don't have to have started already. We're now in June, and it's been going on since March. If you find yourself in a position where your workers need to access funding from this point, they're still eligible for a full 16 weeks. And they just report as they would with employment insurance. And there's 3 really easy ways to apply. The CRA My Account if you do your taxes through the government line, or Service Canada's form, or calling a toll-free number. It's really the easiest government program that anyone has ever heard of to apply for. Secondly, we have the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, which is also offered by the Canada Revenue Agency. This is for employers with a payroll account, so you have to issue T4s to your employees. Recently extended to August the 29th, so it's now a 24-week program. Again, if you haven't taken advantage of this yet, you may very well want to. You apply through CRA's My Business Account. There's a cap per employee, you see that here, but there is no cap on the total size of the payroll, which means companies as large as Air Canada have taken advantage of this amazing program. They are continuing to iterate and expand this program's eligibility, so stay tuned if you're not immediately eligible, but for now, you have to have had a 30% revenue decline. If you're a startup, you can compare to the average of January, February this year. If you've been around for a while, you can compare to the same month last year. And of course, the pandemic started halfway through March, so it's 15% for March. And like with the emergency response benefit, you have to keep maintaining your eligibility by reporting. Third program is the 10% temporary wage subsidy for employers, also offered by Canada Revenue Agency, also for employers with a payroll account, also a subsidy type program. It is, however, about to run out towards the end of this month. But you can go back and check and see if you are eligible. If you're a small or Canadian corporation, non-Canadian corporations are not eligible, or any other type of entity like partnership, whatever, you may be eligible. You don't even apply, you just perform the calculation yourself and withhold whatever you would have sent to the government for income tax withholding for your employees. And you see the caps here, up to $25,000 per employer, up to $13.75 per employee. If you haven't claimed it all from your withholding by June 19th, keep going until you've gotten what you're due. And as with all these other programs so far, it's taxable. It is a subsidy, so it is taxable as part of your income. Fourth, we have a long-standing program, the work sharing program. This has been around for quite a while, but it has had its eligibility expanded to take account of the emergency. This is for employers, again, with a payroll account, with EI eligible employees. They've expanded it up to 76 weeks. And if you're on a cooling off period because you've already done it once, it's over. You can start right away. Again, cap per employee. The idea is that 2 or more employees who basically do the same sort of thing can form work sharing units and then share what work remains. If your workload is down by 10 to 60%, they can cut their hours by 10 to 60%. And then whatever they're not being paid for by your company, the rest gets covered by EI up to the cap that you see here. And again, you have to report regularly, and the actual payments to the employees are part of their taxable income. You are also good for earlier stage companies. Halfway through. Now we have the Ontario Canada Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance Program on the left. This is for commercial landlords to apply for, and this is for those who are renting to small businesses, charities, and nonprofits taking up retail space, basically. You have to have closed as a result of lockdown orders or experienced a 70% drop in pre-COVID-19 revenues. And there's attestations to that effect, and again, you keep your records for later. Now, these are loans, but they're forgivable loans. So if you agree to sign a pledge not evict your tenant, and you agree to sign a pledge that you will not try to recover monies later, but you will just charge them 75% of what they would have paid in gross rent before, of which you're covering the 50%, and or the government is covering the 50%, excuse me, and the landlord is still covering 25%, and then 25% by the tenant for April, May, and June of this year. Then you don't have to pay it back if you adhere to all these terms. Applications got underway on the 25th of May. I believe that was early last week, or actually the week before, and you can apply up until 31st of August. It is retroactive in that sense. Thirdly, and thankfully we have representatives from EDC and BDC here to expand on this particular program. This is the Business Credit Availability Program. $40 billion issued in guarantees by Export Development Canada and Business Development Bank of Canada for loans by your business's financial institution. Loans of up to $6.25 million. 80% of which is subject to the guarantee. So if the company that is borrowing the funds goes bankrupt, my understanding is that 80% of it is guaranteed. But you go through your financial institution, they do their due diligence. You have to have a business bank account with them, I believe, and they take it from there. There is no public application form as such. You go to your bank. Third on this list is the Canada Emergency Business Account, CEBA. And this is also for businesses and NPOs that were operational as of March 1st. It used to be, up until a couple of weeks ago, you had to have a payroll, like T4 slips, T4 summary, of at least $20,000 up to $1.5 million to be eligible. Now, you just need the business banking account pre-existing, the CRA business number, and eligible expenses of between $40,000 and $1.5 million. Eligible expenses are like the fixed non-deferrable operating costs of your business for at least 3 months. let's say. And that's a $40,000 line of credit that if you pay it back by the end of 2022, 25% of it is forgiven. That may have some tax implications, our accounting friends tell us, but it's still a really great deal. And again, you apply through your bank or your credit union. And finally, the newest program is the FedDev Ontario Regional Relief and Recovery Fund, which is allocated $213 million for Southern Ontario, apart from funds that are going through Community Futures Development Corporations. And this is for businesses, cooperatives, or Indigenous-owned businesses with 1 to 499 employees. The idea is you apply for the other programs that have been described here first. Try to get as much of your expenses covered by these programs as possible. If you weren't eligible or you still got some fixed expenses that are weighing upon your business, then apply for FedDev Ontario's RRRF. And these are interest-free loans which may be forgivable in some circumstances to support roughly 3 months of fixed operating costs of SMEs when the revenues are affected by the pandemic. There's an interesting wrinkle for early stage companies like CleanTech companies in that there's a special stream if you've received angel or venture capital finance. And with that, I will turn things over. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Paul. Yvette, why don't you pull up your slides now if you'd like? And Paul, if you can pass that over to Yvette. So Yvette comes to us wearing many hats that are tied to CleanTech. She is currently at Mitacs as well as the Ontario CleanTech Industry Association, where she's on the board of directors with myself and a number of other folks from the CleanTech ecosystem. So we wanted her to take a few minutes today to tell you about the Mitacs programs, because these programs are not necessarily COVID programs, but they're programs that are out there that should be taking advantage of and have changed because of COVID. So without stealing your thunder, Yvette, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Brian. Can you see my slides?
They are up.
Very good. Success. So yeah, thank you, Brian and CleanTech North for having me today here. So the intent today is for me to give you an update on Mitacs programs. And can you see the second slide? I just want to make sure that very
Absolutely.
good. Good. So yeah, I'm going to be giving you an update of Mitacs programs, and but for those of you who may not be familiar with who we are, I'll give you a little bit of background as well. So Mitacs is a national non-for-profit organization, and our mandate is to help foster growth and innovation in Canada. We are funded by ISED at the federal level, and we also have funding agreements with each of the different provinces. So how do we help faster growth and innovation in Canada? We do that by helping companies, by supporting companies with innovation needs, by bringing talent into companies from the academic space. So this would be talent in the form of interns or researchers. This would not be employees or contractors, and would typically be people pursuing their masters, PhD, postdocs. More increasingly, we're working with college students as well and undergraduates. So in a nutshell, highly qualified people who would be in a position to help the companies move the needle in the right direction in terms of research and development and innovation. In terms of which spaces or which steps of your innovation roadmap we can help companies with, it's pretty much anywhere, any stage of your innovation roadmap, from new product development to exploring new disruptive technologies to optimizing processes all the way throughout commercialization. Mitacs is sector and industry agnostic and discipline agnostic as well. What that means is that, yes, we can help you with all those STEM related needs that companies typically have, but we can also help you with projects that do research in areas that are not necessarily STEM related, like policy research, regulatory environment research, all topics that are very important for CleanTech companies as well. So typically, so in a nutshell, when I talk to companies, I typically tell them, look, there's two things that Mitacs can help you with. One is gaining access to talent, post-academic talent, post-secondary education talent, wherever that talent is. We operate national, and we also have international partnerships with a number of countries. And the other thing that we do for you as a company is that we help you with funding towards bringing in that talent and to pay for the stipend for that intern. And at the same time, you have access to the expertise of a reputable academic institution, an academic supervisor, and you also gain access to the resources from the academic institutions. Think about labs, etc. Now, in terms of program updates, actually, we did. There's one program that I'm not including here because the deadline was just yesterday around helping companies develop initiatives to cope with COVID. But we've developed a couple of new programs to help out as well. One, the first one that I'm telling you about is the business strategy internships. And that's a program that I find super exciting. It's really interesting. It's in partnership with Canadian business schools. It's the first time we do this. And the idea is that we help startup and SMEs and also NFPs, non-for-profits, bring in a business student or an MBA student, for example, to work on a 4-month project and help the company with any business operation related topics they happen to be addressing right now in terms of recovering, pivoting, etc. Leverage is pretty good. A company only needs to cover 25% of the stipend for that person, that MBA student, for example. And I have the link here, but do come to me if you would like to discuss more.
Yvette, thank you very much. I know we've actually looked at a number of the Mitacs programs and a number of our companies have, so definitely companies to look at when they're looking to hire and find a new high value employees. So with that, I want to quickly move into the panel discussion. And as mentioned before, we have the wonderful Lynn Cote acting as MC for the panel. So Lynn, why don't I pass it over to you? And on, and on the panel, we also, besides Lynn, who is the CleanTech lead for Export Development Canada, we also have Raul Bantam, who's the Senior Regional Advisor for Innovation Canada, and Zoltan Tampa, Director for the CleanTech Practice for the BDC, so Business Development Bank of Canada. So we've got a great panel. All of these folks are either heavily involved in or have their own programs that they're deploying specifically for COVID. So with that, we'll pull up the speaker headshots here because I know, Lynn, you do not have any slides. So why don't I pass it over to you? And if you want to make any introductions, if not, Raul, we can pull up your slides.
Sure, thank you, Brian. And of course, the earpod comes out of my ear. Yeah, I think we're Export Development Canada. Very happy to be sponsoring this webinar today. I think it's really important for companies to get the most updated information because it has changed quite a bit. So yes, I don't have slides. I'm going to start with my colleagues, and then I'll finish up at the end because there's a lot of things that are very familiar with EDC and BDC are doing things very similarly. So I know Zoltan will do a very good job at that. And then looking forward to hearing from Raul Bantam as well as the FedDev Ontario Innovation Canada program is a newer one that I think a lot of people have questions on. So Zoltan, over to you to start us off.
Hey, thanks, Lynn. I'm just going to call up my slides here.
Okay.
Can everybody see that?
Perfect. It's up and running there, Zoltan.
Okay, excellent. Well, thanks, Brian, and to the good folks at CleanTech North, as well as to the sponsors for this particular webinar. I'm going to try to be as quick as possible. I wanted to kind of first start off by talking a little bit about the BDC CleanTech practice, and then kind of getting into the specific COVID-related measures that BDC has put into place. So for those of you that are not familiar, BDC launched a CleanTech practice and an associated growth capital fund about 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago. We have a $600 million fund, which has a deployment period of over 5 years. This fund was purpose designed for CleanTech in mind, recognizing there are kind of longer timelines to market, higher capital intensity. So we specifically designed this fund to be much more flexible, much more patient and creative in how we deploy our capital solutions. We're providing investments into companies from anywhere from a few $1 million up to $20 million, and we can do it in the form of equity, convertible debt, sub-debt, in certain cases, senior debt as well. Since we've launched, we've invested over $200 million into just over 20 companies, and that as well as 2 different CleanTech VC funds. So I do want to say, you know, we remain kind of open and active within the CleanTech practice. We continue to be one of the most active investors, probably globally, within the space. Our commitment to CleanTech remains resolute, so we will continue to be very active. And in fact, we're trying to be even more patient and much more flexible, given the challenges companies are going through. Beyond kind of the CleanTech practice itself, which is not necessarily designed well to address immediate liquidity challenges, it's better situated to support longer term growth capital needs of companies. Recognizing that, BDC has implemented a number of different COVID specific measures. And I will just jump to those. I'll step through those very quickly. The first 2 I'll note are much better situated companies that have historically been EBITDA positive and have can demonstrate an ability to service debt prior to COVID. And you know, for most of the companies that we track and kind of see within the CleanTech space, they probably aren't as well suited, but I thought I'd touch upon them very quickly. So the first one is a working capital loan. This is administered directly from BDC, and the intent of this is to help cover some of the operating costs that companies need support for to ensure continuity of operations. This is delivered directly through BDC. You can get information about this directly from BDC's website. You can apply online. And again, this goes up to $2 million. The next one, the second support measure, again, this is for companies that historically have been EBITDA positive, historical ability to service debt, and have been impacted negatively from COVID. This is the BCAP program that was alluded to earlier. This co-lending program is delivered in conjunction with financial institutions. In fact, they are kind of the primary source for this. They adjudicate this program. BDC provides an 80% risk share, essentially co-lending 80% against these loans. The specific eligibility criteria for these are determined by each financial institution. So if you have a need from $2 million up to the $12.5 million, have historically been EBITDA positive, talk to your financial institution, and there are mechanisms in place to be able to draw upon capital from BDC for 80% of that. The third one is, I think, a little bit more relevant to the companies within the CleanTech space that are kind of earlier stage, more in kind of the kind of pre-EBITDA positive space. So this is something that was announced probably about 4 to 5 weeks ago from BDC Capital. It's called the Bridge Financing Program. And this is a program that is deploying capital alongside existing investors, qualified investors, where BDC can fund on a one-for-one basis up to $3 million, anywhere from $250,000 up to $3 million. And so this is for high potential startups, not necessarily just specifically within the CleanTech space, but the broader technology space. And it's any company that has raised at least $500,000 is eligible for this. I'll stop there and pass it on to the next presenter.
Great.
Thanks, Sultan. That's really a good overview of the different programs. I have a few questions for you that I'll keep till after. So, Raul, if you can start going through the rather new program, I think that's got everybody quite interested from FedDev Ontario, that would be great.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. And so what have we here? All right, so Brian, Paul, thank you so much for inviting me here. It's great to be a part of this panel to speak to folks who are interested in government programs. And, you know, as we can see from that list of, quite an expansive list of the various government programs out there that Paul provided, we're trying to do as much as we can to assist industry through this period. Now, I understand that to some extent, not all of the programs fit each of the companies out there. So we continue to make modifications in order to ensure that as few companies get left behind as possible. So with that being said, you know, I just want to go through a little bit of what it is that we do at Innovation Canada before speaking directly about the Regional Relief and Recovery Fund that FedDev is currently administrating. So Innovation Canada, we provide funding to back businesses, but we also have services to help entrepreneurs find the various programs out there can assist them in the various stages of their innovation cycle, whether it's research, whether it's for piloting, whether it's for commercialization. There is a program within government that supports companies, again, through all stages of their development. I think the ones that are important to you would be, especially for this audience that is, the Clean Growth Hub that we will touch on a little bit more as we move forward. My role specifically at Innovation Canada is to support businesses through the Accelerated Growth Service Program. That is businesses that are realizing revenues of $5 million year over year, that are growing at approximately 20% and have a minimum of 15 employees. We bring these companies together with various government departments that provide financing to support their growth ambitions over an 18 to 24-month period. So that's been quite successful to date. We've had more than 700 AGS companies go through the program in the past 2 years. And for myself, I'm an innovation advisor, and I have counterparts across the country ready and willing to support technology-driven businesses, but really any business that is innovative, that is also got the export mindset. They want to grow rapidly, and they want to be competitive across the globe. I don't think we need to see this. One of the great services that Innovation Canada provides, and I think this is really important for companies that are looking for programs, is our web portal, innovation.canada.ca. At innovation.canada.ca, companies are able to input their specific information and then get programs that might be able to suit their needs. And innovation.canada.ca is continuously updating our various programs and to ensure that the latest ones that are available to Canadian businesses are updated near daily. So I would implore each of the folks that are on this webinar to visit innovation.canada.ca regularly, even set up an account and start saving their various requests about their programs so that they can share it with advisors such as myself in the event you should ever need our support. Okay, so Specifically now in regards to FedDev program, I used to actually be a FedDev employee prior to joining Innovation Canada. And right now, I am seconded to FedDev to help them with their surge capacity for the Regional Relief and Recovery Fund. So I know this program intimately as I've been involved with it over the past several weeks. And so not only is RRRF being delivered by FedDev, but other regional development agencies across the country, whether it's ACOA or Western Diversification. Depending on where you're situated, you might be able to access this program from your specific territory and that regional development agency that's responsible for that area. So the RRF essentially provides contributions, interest-free loans, if you will, to businesses to help support fixed operating costs. But specifically, your business must have been negatively impacted by COVID-19. And we can get a little bit into the nuances of that, which is, for argument's sake, let's say that your company has not yet seen that dip, but there is an expectation that over the coming months, there will be some negative impact in terms of your revenues. If that is the case for you, please don't delay, apply towards this fund because there is a chance that you would be eligible, even though you have not today realized it. But if the trend is in that direction, then your application would merit consideration for some type of contribution. All right, so the eligibility criteria is as such. You need to be Canadian or provincial incorporated businesses residing in Southern Ontario. You're facing pressures with your fixed operational costs due specifically to COVID. You've applied to other programs and have been rejected, or even if you have received some of these other programs, that does not preclude you from accessing the Regional Relief and Recovery Fund. Right? You're planning to continue operating your business, and importantly, you must have been a viable business pre-COVID, right? That does not mean that you necessarily need to be a revenue-generating business, but we'll get into that shortly. The eligible expenses that we are looking at are lease payments, but this is of course not exhaustive what you see here. Property taxes, utilities, etc., salaries and benefits, and rent if you haven't received any kind of benefits from KECRA, all right? What's ineligible, importantly, mortgage or loan payments, new capital expenditures, because remember, this is to provide you with relief. It's not necessarily there to help you with commercialization per se. Refinancing existing debts, not eligible either. Okay. So there are a couple different funding options for businesses depending into which category you fall into here. There's an option of up to $40,000, which then becomes conditional repayable. You have a chance of getting up to 25% or $10,000 if you hit that 40,000 ceiling contribution forgiveness if you pay back $30,000 by December 31st, 2022. So that's for companies and to determine upon application whether or not they're going for option one, or if they are in much greater need, option two is available where it provides up to $500,000, which is unconditionally repayable. Each and every single dollar is expected to be repaid to the government. And no payments are required until December 31st, 2022. And you can get then, fixed schedule beginning in January 2023. But no payments required through the duration of the program, which ends December 31st, 2022. Now, here is a schedule in terms of how much revenue you could be making and what that would mean in terms of your contribution amount. It's important to recognize that it is going to be, your contribution amount is going to be the lesser of 5% of your revenue or 25% of your 2020 operating expenses. And so for pre-revenue firms that are backed by VCs, if you're have expenses of, let's say, $1 million, there is an opportunity for you to be able to get as much as $250,000 as a part of your RRRF contribution. With that said, I think we can open it up, Lynn, for conversations around how to potentially get this, or any other questions that you might have.
Sure, thanks, Raul. That was really interesting. I don't know about other people, but I was writing down, and people who know me know I hate to write, so I can't read my writing. So lots of good information, lots of good detail. I'm assuming, Brian, that we'll be able to share the slides afterwards. So before I pass on to the next, I just wanted to talk a little bit and be mindful of time about EDC. So EDC has been executing on a clean tech strategy since 2012. You know, we've learned a lot in that period. We work really closely with BDC, SCTC, GAC, CCC, the Clean Growth Hub, which is a great resource for clean tech companies. So if you need something and you're not sure about all the programs in government, go to them. They've got a really good website and really good newsletter. EDC, last year we provided $2.4 billion in financial support to 227 clean tech customers. So we built that portfolio over time. But 83% of the portfolio is made up of small and medium size, and much more on the small end. So we've you know, done a fair bit of business. Learned a lot, and hope to continue doing more. The COVID crisis has only you know, made us understand how even more important it is to work across the ecosystem to make sure that we're collectively providing a very good level of service to companies. As Zoltan explained, EDC also has a BCAP offering. It's very, very similar. It is an 80% loan guarantee that is provided by the financial institution, and the tenor has changed from 1 year to 2 years to 5 years. So we got a lot of feedback from the market that said, you know, a year is much, you know, far too short to repay, even to, as things started to become clear that this was going to last a while. So there is now a 5-year repayment. Each financial institution is managing it according to the terms that we put together. So the best thing to do if you think you may need those funds is to speak to the financial institution. If the BDC solution is best, then you know, take that one. If the EDC solution is better, take that one as well. And if you need both, then you know, get both. And because this is really, well, we don't compete in clean tech, it really is the time for companies to get the best solution that will work for them. Another program that we announced just a few weeks ago, and we're very proud of this. This was also a reaction to what we were hearing from industry associations about the lack of equity and challenges around deals that were happening where, you know, one or more of the investors were walking away because of the uncertainty and every, you know, the risks around COVID. So we put together a matching program, which basically will match any private sector investment up to $2.5 million into a Canadian clean tech company. The eligibility is the clean tech company has to have trailing revenues of $250,000, and the investment partner needs to be a private sector partner, typically a VC or something that acts very much like a VC. And that VC has to have about $10 million under management because we will take their due diligence in order to turn it around quickly and get money to company. We will take all the credit and the due diligence that the VC has done, and we're not going to redo it at EDC. So it's important that they are an experienced investor. Folks ask us, oh, okay, so EDC has a matching program, BDC has one. Can you match each other? No, because we're not private sector, but we can be together on a deal. So for example, if you have BDC prepared to match $1 million private investment, EDC could also do match that $1 million. So we can be together on deals, and if we need to be together because that's the best solution, then we're more than happy to do that. So if you have questions on the matching program, I'm happy to take them now. You can reach out to me later. You know, the applicant in this case really then becomes the venture capital fund, very similar to BDC. So they will come to us and say, you know, I have an investment in a company, and so far we've seen investments range from fairly early stage to growth type capital. So we've seen the gamut, and we're not necessarily restricting the tool or the type of investment. We're more interested in the fact that it's a clean tech company with $250,000 in revenue, and the co-investment partner for us would be a qualified one. So I think, Brian, I'll just check in with you to see if I had maybe one question for each, Zoltan and Raul, but I know you've got someone else, so I'll listen to
We
what
should
you
be
tell me to
okay.
do.
Yeah, no, we should
Okay.
be okay. I think Amir's got about 7 minutes as the showcase, so I think we should have time for a question, certainly a question
Okay.
each.
So Zoltan, as companies listen to us and they go BDC, EDC, you know, is there really a difference? You know, how do I know, you know, which one to go to? What would be your advice for companies who are not sure and who maybe don't know either one of us very well, or maybe know one better than the other? So what would you tell companies?
Well, I'd say, I think the good news is you can't go wrong. As you mentioned, Lynn, we work together really closely, BDC, EDC, as well as kind of a constellation of other partners within the ecosystem, SBTC, Global Affairs, et cetera. So for the benefit of those on the webinar, we do have something called a joint account management framework that's in place. And so we meet very regularly, and during the COVID crisis, we've been meeting weekly to sometimes twice a week. So we're very actively kind of triaging opportunities and passing opportunities back and forth to figure out which party might be best situated to be able to support that company. As Lynn said, in certain cases, there are times where we can come in together. BDC and EDC, to a large extent, have complementary but different solutions. I'd say the exception being around kind of the co-invest program that EDC has and the co-invest program that BDC has. Those are a little bit more similar. And as you indicated, we can kind of work together and syndicate on some of those investments. EDC, of course, being much better situated to be able to support kind of provide a range of instruments that support kind of export, bonding, guarantees. Those are things that BDC does not do. BDC is very well situated, and within the CleanTech practice, we're very well situated to provide a range of growth capital solutions, as I mentioned before, equity, subordinated debt, convertible debt. So no matter which door you come through, you'll end up in the right place or the right places.
Thanks, Zoltan. Yeah, I mean, the joint account management that we've been doing for years now, I think is the goal really is to ensure that we're working collectively to provide you know, the best solutions for Canadian clean tech companies. Raul, I have a question for you. that I put together without knowing what the slides would be, but I think it still works. So if I'm a company and I listen to you, and I may have applied to some programs but not all of them, how do I know, because this is sort of the most recent program, how do I know like which ones that it's okay to have been accepted and potentially been disperse funds and I can still orders? Or are there, is it like the minute you got money from another program, you can't apply here? If you can just maybe go over that a little bit for us.
Sure. So generally speaking, RRF is there to support companies that have fallen through the cracks and weren't eligible for other programs, or those other programs did not truly satisfy all of the needs that the company has. So as an example, if they were to apply and have gotten the emergency loan, $40,000, and then were rejected from the IRAP, the Innovation Assistance Program. So that's two programs that they've applied to, received one, was rejected for the other. So the $40,000 that they received, if that company was eligible for $200,000 from the RRF fund, then because they received that
Brian, it's Lynn. I'm not, I think I may have lost Raul. I don't know if we did on overall, but I can't, I couldn't hear him and now I can't see him.
My apologies. It looks like the host account actually cut out here, which I think is actually me.
Oh, okay. I thought it was me. It's usually me. I did leave a long list. I left a long list for the kids. No streaming, no videos, no movies, no casting. And
I won't call out our service provider that we're switching from, but that may have been on my end. My apologies if that cut anybody out.
He's back.
Hey. We're back. So, Raul, do you want to just do a quick summary of that one again? I apologize.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's assume then that a company has received CEBA, $40,000. They've been rejected from IAP, an NRC IAP, and they're eligible for $200,000 from the RRF program. What would generally happen in that scenario is that the $40,000 that they received from CEBA would be subtracted from that $200,000, leaving the company still with $160,000 possible contribution from RRF. Now, let's say that the company was later able to get emergency wage benefits, right? And that amount totaled, $35,000. Then we would look at the company's actual expense for the year and in fact deduct wages from that calculation.
It's Brian here. So would it be the case that if you had CEWS for the first period, but then we're trying to get it, we're not eligible for a second or third period, you would be potentially eligible for FedDev to help cover an additional portion?
Potentially, but what we're looking at is the amount that you would have received from that program to help us determine whether or not it's going to be all of that that then gets all of the wages for your calendar 2020 that would be ineligible at that point.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, so I think our panel is done. So thank you very much to Zoltan and Raul. And I think now I'm handing over to Amir from, I'm not sure if I'm going to say it right, Eagle?
No, that's Eagle. It's just a smarter version of that. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, panel. As I said, over to yourself, Amir.
Yeah, you can share your screen. There you go.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Can you see my screen?
You're good.
Okay, thanks everyone for this opportunity. I'll be talking about Eagle and a startup based in Toronto and Waterloo. And so the difficulty that we faced during the COVID-19 and how we are making a quick pivot, make use of the existing fund and grow faster than before COVID. My name is Amir Hassan, the CEO of Eagle, and here is my contact information in case anyone is interested to contact. I'll start with the problem that we have, and obviously that's what we are here, and that's COVID-19. It's an ongoing crisis. It's an unclear path forward, and so we don't know what's going to happen in short term and long term, and it might become a new norm. Now, this comes with challenges for a startup like ours, no matter how early a stage you are or a little later in the stage. That makes everyone to think about doing a pivot and agile adaptation to the new environment and to the new opportunities that COVID brought with itself. So we were one of those companies that got hit very bad because of COVID in January. We had a lot of purchase order got canceled, project got canceled. And so we thought about a quick pivot as a clean tech, prop tech company in commercial real estate market. Now, we did a pivot, which I'll explain later what was that, but here is the result of our performance over the last 2 weeks. So a pivot was successful. We were 11 members before COVID, now we are 16, so we hired 5 new people through Mitacs, through IRAP, through other funding programs to keep up with the demand of the product that we created. We filed 2 US patents just because of the technology that we developed as a result of this pivot. We got a great interest and high demand in both US and Canada, and now we see that internationally. And so we've been, our new product been in the market, I think this is the week 8 right now. And so we had a very nice, considerable, substantial traction in across different verticals with our technology. And funding that obviously we are tapping into our IRAP, OC, and Mitacs. And obviously we need more funding to keep up with the demand and to keep up with the growth that we have. Now, what we were doing before COVID, our company is a computer vision and AI company. And we provide total solution of camera and software, but essentially we are a software that works with third-party cameras. Our software sits on the existing security system, sees human shape of body, follow the density of the traffic, and match and map the traffic flow of people on the layout of the facility to show how people are using that facility, primarily for 3 main purposes: for optimizing their space, for optimizing labor allocation, and optimizing energy, all based on occupancy data. So when COVID started, we brought the same core technology from inside to the entrance of facilities for 2 main purposes: the capacity restriction that all building has for social distancing, so we count people as they're coming in. And second, see if people have symptom. And by symptom, I mean if they have fever, if they have elevated body temperature, if they have PP or not for PP compliance ratio for corporation, in a very non-invasive way. So what we did, basically, we brought our core expertise, which was crowd monitoring and crowd management, into thermal scanning business as people are coming to the building. I'll go quick. We are addressing 5 big problems that exist right now, and not just thermal scanning business, but also in economy reopening and the way that companies are strategizing with their back to work safely strategy. From left to right, these are all 5 big challenges that all our customers are facing. You got large number of employees that are going back to work, and if you want to scan them all or measure their temperature, ask them question, you are spending maybe at the best case 15 seconds, if not 30 seconds, in some cases a minute per employee for them to come in and pass through the questionnaire and the scanning. And so that is interrupting. Assuming an automotive facility that has 1,500 employees, can we really spend even 15 seconds per each? You got corporations that have hundreds and tens of facilities across US and Canada. Each one have multiple entrances. And so what they do right now, they have dedicated a staff of 2 or 3 members per entrance just to scan people. And so bringing an unmanned solution can really create value in here. You got some technology deficiency in thermal business, specific to thermal cameras, that you have to be at a fixed distance from camera for that to measure your temperature. And so standing in front of camera at a fixed distance means that you have to make a pause, means you have to waste some seconds in front of camera, and that leading to interrupting traffic flow of people coming to a shopping mall, going to a retail store, etc. You got privacy concern around doing thermal scanning with face detection and doing cloud computing. And last but not least, and the most important one, is the capital investment. Like, all corporations are looking at deploying measures for COVID across all their buildings. So that means millions of dollar investment. And so there has to be application post-COVID, or even during the COVID, there has to be other applications. How we do it? We do it this way. So we brought crowd monitoring into thermal scanning business. Our software allows the camera to cover 450 square foot area, 20 feet by 22 feet. So as people are entering our monitoring zone, they are scanned, counted, their temperature is read till the time they leave that. And so we do that on an edge computing process, no cloud computing, to be privacy compliant. I have a 1-minute demo that I like to show everyone, and I'll be concluding my presentation. So as you can see, this green rectangle is our monitoring zone. As people are entering the monitoring zone, the system or AI detects human shape of body, count them as one individual, and then measures their body temperature in real time. You can see they don't have to slow down. They can even run in front of camera. They can run in groups. So it's really non-interruptive to the existing operation of that facility. And so create a really smooth back to work strategy, back to work planning for customers. Here in this scenario, the system is detecting if someone is trying to deceive the system by covering their full body. So the system detects them as unreadable and report them. Now, this system is an unmanned process. It detects people with fever, send a notification, trigger an alarm for security team to take them to the second screening process, which is different corporation by corporation. And thank you.
Great, Amir. Thank you very much for your presentation. You know, one of the things we wanted to do is on our first session, our first webinar back in action after COVID hit, was be really true to our roots and showcase a couple of those, or at least one clean tech company, and ideally one that's been able to pivot and use that technology in other areas, because I know, for you, this is partially a thin edge of the wedge, a current problem that then gets you in for working on the building efficiency, temperature management within the facility and things like that. So, taking this horrible situation and turning that into a positive is something that we really wanted to showcase. So we are just at 1:02. I do want to stay close to the time, but I really wanted to say thank you to everybody that participated, and thank you to our attendees that were here. Thank you to our panel, to Lynn, to Raul, to Zoltan, to Yvette for presenting some information on what's going on with Mitacs, and Paul for the summary of some of the other programs, and of course Amir for the summary of where you're at. And I think we will be doing a number more of these sorts of webinars. We are going to look at other formats to increase what we know you all love as our audience, which is that interactive nature of these. So increasing using polls and some other mechanisms that Zoom has to really bring back some of that interactive nature that we know that all of our community really enjoys and benefits from in the CleanTech North ecosystem. So we'll be experimenting with that. We may send you some polling questions that for whatever reason I was not able to pull up during the session. We may send those to you afterwards. We will circulate as many of the slides as we can, and also the recording link. And aside from one small technological glitch, I think things on my end, I think things went well. So thank you for bearing with us for this first webinar. I hope you're all staying safe. I hope you're all staying solvent. And if the second one of those things is at all in question or is looking like it's going to get tricky, please reach out to us, reach out to EDC, BDC, RAW, the FedDev programs. We're here to keep this CleanTech community whole and active, because once this crisis is over, we are definitely going to need you leading the companies of the futures so that we can get back to work and make sure that our planet is still a viable one even after the pandemic. So thank you very much from CleanTech North. Thank you again to the panel, and we look forward to speaking to you soon.
All right. Thank you,
everyone. Thank you.
All the best.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.